Versus your answer. So Lindsay, when I asked you about if you were adopted, the first time you answered, you said you were adopted out of the hospital, that you are not aware of any Child Protective Service case or of a private adoption from the hospital, which would leave me to think that that information was withheld from you, whether you knew enough to ask for it as you grew up, or if you've ever asked for it to find out, because the origins of adoptions are shrouded in confidentiality. There are many stories of adoptions that were completely illegal, completely immoral, doctors selling babies to families, all kinds of history of this stuff. So it's really important to look at this document that I have here. It's called the Memorandum of Procedures, and it's in a dependency and neglect case. This document, if you look at the bottom, it says Dependency and Neglect State MOP. It was commissioned by the Colorado Supreme Court as a foster care case management guide. And the judicial order came out with Court Judicial Order here, 98. So in 1998, right when they passed the Personal Responsibilities Act under Bill Clinton, Colorado planned this document, and it took 3 years. And it's the intent is to serve as a useful guidance to districts in developing local policies and procedures in accordance with the Colorado Judicial Directive. However, this document is the operative document in 37 states. And I'm going to walk you through what it looks like, but I'm scrolling down to page 7. And under page 7, it talks about concurrent permanency planning cases.
Mhm.
In uncontested cases in which at least one parent has appeared, expressed a desire to work toward reunification, and agreed to a treatment plan, but certain risk factors are present that suggest reunification may not be successful. You get what that means, Lindsay, right? In your case, your reunification was not successful. So why? Let's look at why as one of the reasons given here. And it says risk factors include a history of prior involvement with DSS or DHS for similar issues. Let me get rid of that co-pilot thing there. See if I can highlight this. Okay.
Mhm.
So with that, I call that foster class warfare. In other words, your child, when you showed up at El Paso County, they did a history on you that you didn't even know about. And if you were removed from a hospital and there was no private company involved, then it had to be okay, sanctioned by the state of California, where you grew up, where you were born, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So that would mean that they already had targeted you and profiled you. The other the other reasons would be history of severe physical abuse or habitual pattern of physical injury toward the child or a sibling. That didn't happen to you, right? Your child was not being abused physically at the time they removed your child, correct?
Correct. She was
Okay.
not.
And then the next one is probably the most vile misuse of government power that I have ever seen. History of sexual abuse where the perpetrator is in denial. What does that mean, Marianne?
They, well, weren't we talking that if a parent is innocent, if they just admit it, labeled?
No, then they get the child back.
Oh,
They
they
are
get the,
no
yes,
longer a
yes.
risk factor.
Okay.
It's no longer a factor as long as they admit it. So that wasn't happening that you know of, Lindsay, because your baby was never away from you for how many months? And then what happened? Was your baby ever in the family home with the parents and the brothers?
Um, well, my husband took the baby over to his parents' house where the brothers were at. right after the baby was born. And then that's when I called the police. So she
And what
was
was your
maybe
reasoning for that?
because the brothers fought for 9 months, physically fist fought for 9 months of my pregnancy, and I didn't feel okay with my, he's now my ex-husband, bringing the babies over to his parents' house. So when me and my ex-husband, we were living with elderly family friends at the time. So when I found out that he was bringing our newborn baby over to his parents' house, that's when I called the police.
Mhm.
And what was your fear? Just that there would be violence?
Yeah, that the brothers might, I don't know, throw her up in the air and drop her or try to hurt her somehow.
Did
Mhm.
you fear sexual abuse at any point?
No, no sexual abuse from anybody.
And have you had any new information about the brothers?
Well, I put down over the years since the CPS case ended, there was a news article on one of the brothers and him trying to flirt with a 14-year-old girl and being arrested for that.
Hmm.
So your instincts may have been correct that you really did. Maybe did you ever ask for a restraining order from the police or
No, my whole purpose of trying to contact CPS was in hopes that the Child Protective Service case managers would help me to get protection orders.
and that
That
didn't happen.
was,
And that didn't happen.
yeah.
But your instincts were sharp,
Mhm.
we think. I agree. So I didn't become involved in your case until just a year ago after Mary Ann, the great glue, the great connector, Mary Ann Petrie, called me and let me know that there was a lady, and at that time we were looking at the other case. Do I have your permission, Lindsay, to just name the other case?
Sure.
The Richard Frost case, which is we just had the appeal. And it's looking very positive that Mr. Frost will have another shot to get his four children, at least the three youngest ones, back in his life. They terminated his rights as well. So, did you want to mention what was going on during the time that you were trying to get help for your child and CPS stepped in? Do you want to jump to that part?
Well, the big one for me was that I put in my first book, The Missing, was I actually believe that I wrote them a letter and sent it in the mail to them while I was pregnant, explaining the abuse with the brothers and fighting, and can you all help me after my daughter's born to help with protection orders. So that was the first thing. And then my daughter was born. And then after my ex husband brought the baby over to his parents' house, that's when I called the police. And that was I think that was about a month after. No, actually, no, that was right at the time that I contacted CPS, was when he brought the baby over to his parents' house. And then after that, Child Protective Service case manager Candace White sent me, she created like 15 different agencies that she wanted to send me to during the 3 year CPS case. And they were like, some of them were mental health counselors, some of them were parent child interactional counselors, some of them were just regular mental health counselors. And then on top of that, on top of the 10 to 15 programs that she wanted me to do for 3 years, she also expected me to get a job, to hold down a job, to hold down an apartment, and then also put my daughter in daycare. And what I found out after the CPS case ended was I got copies of the court's parent-child treatment plans, and none of these agencies that she sent me to were on any of the court's parent-child treatment plans. So that's pretty much what my whole entire book is all about showing all of this stuff. Because in all honesty, I don't even know if what she was doing was um, protocol, of what case managers should have been doing. It didn't seem like she was at all parent-child reunification oriented. It seems like she was the exact opposite. And
What do you mean by the exact opposite? Like she was sending you
well,
to agencies. Were they supposed to be helping you? Were they supposed to be testifying in court?
when I say the exact opposite, she had probably 5 different foster care families that she was trying to send my daughter to. And it would be my daughter would have an overnight visit with me, and then I would take my daughter to a new foster care family the next day. And those things I feel like were ordered by Candace White, not the courts, because they weren't on the court family treatment plans. And I got a list that I put in my first book saying that there was 5 different foster care families altogether. And I felt like with her constantly going to multiple foster care families when I had a safe apartment for me and my daughter to go to, that was partly why I considered it to be child human trafficking, because I didn't feel like that was normal behavior for a case manager
So
to
the
just keep going to foster care.
to be child human trafficking, there needs to be money involved. And
Mm-hmm.
how long have you been begging people to investigate this to see if, in fact, there was money? So nobody can get access. You have to be on the inside doing this to get access. Marianne, do you know anybody that's able to figure out how many agencies and how much money they're getting? And you know, and are there cash payments to the caseworker? Nobody's investigating this that I know of. None of the DAs care. In fact, in the Richard Frost case, the DA used um, pressure on one of the defendants to report the dad who had no criminal record. The DA put pressure on this young woman to make a statement against Richard Frost that, what she said was absolutely almost like ridiculously harmless. They were snuggling all the kids and the dad on in the bed, which I, they were his kids, but not her. She wasn't his kid. She was the oldest. That's what she said. She couldn't think of anything more harmful against Richard Frost, but the county attorney used that to give her a lighter sentence. So what I'm saying is no investigation of the truth is coming out. No investigation of innocent people's coming out. No proof of the criminal activity is coming out. We're on our own trying to fight this as the people. And you're trying to fight it, Lindsay, and Marianne's trying to fight it, and I'm trying to fight it, and hundreds of other people, thousands of people are trying to fight it. And where are we getting? We got to go through the legislature instead of like demanding these investigations. So that's Debbie Carroll's little piece. Sorry.
Well, over here in Pennsylvania, on August 26, 2025, Shapiro administration releases 2024 annual Child Protective Services report and shares
You
continued
want to put it
work
on the
to
screen?
support child welfare systems to keep kids safe.
Do you want to put that on the screen? Do you have that?
I have it. I have it on my phone. I was looking it up, but here.
Shapiro administration shares continued work to support child welfare system and keep kids safe. And and yeah, thank you. That is that is what they're doing that fuels a narrative that is completely incorrect.
uh,
In October of 2023, Jonathan Ossoff and Marsha Blackburn, senators from Georgia, I think they're representatives. I think Marsha's a senator. I think they're both senators actually, reported that CPS has an 86% failure. 86% of the cases, the children are not placed in the safest resolution. And it happened, it definitely happened in the Richard Frost case when they were placed with predators.
Mhm.
Same county, El Paso County Department of Human Services, is no worse than 50% of the counties in Colorado. But this is how bad they are. Actually giving children to not one sex offender, but to two known sex offenders, and then using the mother and the daughter who then become sex offenders. They had 4 adults trafficking, actually 5 children, because the oldest girl was both a perpetrator and a victim of this micro cell of sex traffickers, running the kids to hotels and having assaults in the home for years
Mhm.
because DHS put them there. So, Lindsay, I keep telling you how bad DHS El Paso County is. And I know that's really hard for parents to listen to an additional case from the same organization. How do you feel when I talk about that?
I feel like you are absolutely right and legit about them doing wrong and corrupt stuff after what I've been through because I've seen it.
Because they're continuing to
Um,
human traffic children and facilitate the human trafficking. And then let's talk about this for just a minute so your audience knows. Colorado has had 2.9 sex offenders found guilty and convicted, charged with child sex trafficking. 2.9 people a year for the last 3 years. There's so much human child sex trafficking going on when it can happen in your own neighborhood, and the county puts children with those offenders, and only 2.9 average are prosecuted and found guilty. And we have a huge 200,000 person signature petition drive for a ballot initiative to lock up child sex offenders for life without parole. That's only going to cost the state the cost of 3 people a year. In 10 years, they're only going to lock up 30 people. And we have 200,000 signatures going to create that petition drive. We're using all this energy, and the legislature right now has the power to charge them as misdemeanors, to charge them as the lowest level felonies. The number that are actually charged and convicted of child sex trafficking is under three a year. I think it's a horrendous um, use of energy that should be spent on banging the doors of the state capitol all night long, all day long by thousands and thousands of people. The energy could be used for awareness of this memorandum of procedures that is allowing this to happen. The power of the state in these custody battles and in these placement of children is unrestrained. It's completely unfettered. They have so much power. Nobody is controlling them. Nobody is investigating them. And it's up to we, the people, to wake up, stand up, and not back down until this whole system is completely redesigned to keep the parents who are safe and loving and responsible in the children's lives. Is going towards these cases. My estimate is that it's over $16,000 a month per child. Now we have to also add in how much is the state? That's the state getting money from the feds and their money
isn't
laundering.
isn't the 16,000 also if they try to adopt the child out to foster care, like to a foster care
That's
family?
part of it.
Also? Yeah.
Part of the money. So there's block grants and there's Title 4E funding. And not every child gets the survivor benefits and the disability benefits, but if they're in foster care, they do get some money for the state, but the maximum would be both the disability money and the survival benefits and the foster care. But you add to that the block grants. That's the TANF. That's Medicaid. That is the school educational funding that goes to the state. So they hand the money back and they garner that money for the state when they put kids in foster care. They gather that money into a different fund. It's not going, it's taking the money that is meant for the children and running it through the foster care system to and basically what happens to foster kids in the system, in the school system, is they are underserved, undereducated, misdiagnosed, um, transgendered. A lot of foster kids came out of a lot of the transgender kids came out of the foster care system, as that is where they experimented on the foster children for the drugs, the puberty blockers, the testosterone to enhance girls to become male, for the Lupron, which prevents men's testosterone from being produced. There's just so they were experimenting on the foster kids for the last 40 or 50 years with these drugs
Mhm.
and the surgeries. So the foster care system is so dangerous and the outcomes are so horrendous and so predictable. These are preordained outcomes. When you wrote that letter and notified that CPS where you were, if you hadn't shown up, they would have come looking for you. They would have had the neighbors listening. When your child went to school, they would have the teachers watching out, the counselors, all of it. It's all designed for child find. That rhymes. It's all designed for child find. And the more children they can get their hands on, the more family they can abuse, the more children they can place in danger, the more money flows.
Right. And I've talked to other parents when they have had their kids taken away. I don't know if this is happening to all the parents, but some of them are being forced to pay child support on top of that
They
to the
are,
foster parent.
yes. Well, it's not to the foster parent. Let me tell you about that. So, in his book, The Poverty Industry, Daniel L. Hatcher revealed in 2016, when it was published, that the child support was going to the state. And in Colorado, a year after that came out, 1 or 2 years, they changed it where the child support is going to the county. And now in Colorado, what they've done, please let me tell you this story. This is unbelievable. What they've done is they have followed what Robert F. Kennedy has suggested to the states, and they are no longer taking the children's survivor benefits directly into the state custody. What they are doing is they are putting children whose parents are dead, one or both, and they're in foster care. They're opening an account for the child. And they're using that money and they're convincing the child, and even if the child's 2 or 3 years old, they have an account for them now. And they have a guardian ad litem who is a state official. And that guardian ad litem is helping the child to say, yes, I want to go to camp.
Mm.
I want to go to camp and I might have to sleep in the same bed as a transgender other child. And I might get to go to sex camp. Because we all know here, I think everybody's been notified here by me, that this summer, they a private group tried to have sex camps for children at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And think about it now. They were going to send these children from just graduated from fourth grade all the way to graduated from eighth grade to 40 hours a week for 2 weeks in two separate camps, one for the fifth and sixth graders, one for the seventh and eighth graders, where they were going to learn about justice for kids who wanted to learn about sex. And what justice looks like in Colorado, justice for these children is that they can have sex with children up to 4 years younger than them or down to 4 years younger and up to 4 years older. So an 11-year-old child can have sex with a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, 12, 13, 14. 8 years span, from 7 to 4 to 15 for an 11-year-old child. And that child will not get in trouble for having sex with the 7-year-old. That's the law in Colorado as it stands right now. Now just think about it. The children in the foster care system will have the money deducted for that camp to go learn about how to sexually assault other children without legal ramifications. And we have a lawsuit in Colorado that was brought by a Christian camp because they were trying to force children who were signed up to go to Christian camp to have transgenders share the bedroom and even the bed. And Jefferson County School District in Colorado also has a lawsuit against it for trying to make a trans boy be allowed to sleep with a regular girl. I'm using the term regular, not using the term cis, because I think their language is confusing people, and it's a cult. It's cult language. You go to a cult where you learn to call things different than what they are to further the interests of the cult. So when we're looking at the legislature's role in all of this, we're looking at the judges commissioning the CPS policy that gives children back to sex perpetrators. Now we need to add the Sex Offender Registry Notification Act. So we have a state representative, Scott Bottoms, who called a rally in Arapahoe County because the man who was a registered sex offender and tried to steal an 11-year-old girl off a playground was released into community because he's too incompetent to stand trial, which is a law that the Colorado legislature passed last year as well, giving incompetent sexual offenders, child sex offenders, immunity from prosecution because they're mentally ill. But they don't have services for the mentally ill that they lock up in jail because they have to let the people out of jail, but because they don't have the services to give them rehabilitation, which is almost impossible to rehabilitate a sex offender. But we throw a lot of money at it. And under SORNA, the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, the state gets money for people who are sex offenders as long as they're not in jail. So they're on the street. I am describing an almost unbelievable climate and umbrella protecting sex offenders and not children through the government of the state of Colorado. So Lindsey, you walked into something nobody even knows at all about the expansiveness of the situation the way it is in Colorado right now. And it's not the only state. It's people aren't paying attention and they aren't putting the pieces together, including the district attorneys, including the police enforcement, law enforcement, including appeals to our state legislatures to change the laws, including people begging the judges to do the right thing for their children. None of it's working. It's not supposed to work. It's not designed to work. The system is designed to remove people's children and market them
and make
and break
more
them
money.
and break them and tear apart the families in America. And the term no contact is on Twitter, hashtag no contact. And you can read about all these people and how much they believe that they don't need to have contact with family members. They can just cut them off, whether they were ever abused or not, just like in family court. It came from family court. Hashtag no contact. I think every parent who is suffering from hashtag no contact by the courts should be on that hashtag no contact and just tell people you got it wrong. Your perception, you have a right to have a boundary, but if you can't identify or put into words, if you're just afraid to face your parent because they're strong, they have strong personalities, um, that's not enough reason to deny yourself, your siblings from seeing your parent or your children, the grandchildren of your parent. We need to have a more balanced position on that hashtag no contact so that, they've taken over our social media. I'm not advocating to take over their social media, but Lindsay, what happens if you get the right to see your daughter and she doesn't want to see you? And the court goes, oh, okay.
Well, if it's court ordered, I mean, if it's court ordered for her to see me, it doesn't really matter if she if she says that she doesn't want to see me, if it's
You're
court ordered
absolutely
for her to see
correct,
me.
but you have to know that in the courtroom that there and so in Richard Frost's appeal, the judge told the guardian ad litem's attorney, uh, children don't have veto power. Oh, we're gonna drag them in there kicking and screaming. That was the response. We're
I
gonna
think
drag them.
if I think if my daughter knew the truth of everything that happened, it would be hard for me to believe, with how hard I have fought for my daughter, that she would not want to see me.
There is no mechanism for her to sit down with somebody she trusts and listen to the story. There's no mechanism for that. Coming from you, you've already been alienated by the court and then
Mhm.
most likely by the adoptive parents. And so
Mhm.
getting the truth, that's the piece of it that a lot of parents they just assume that if the court does the right thing at this time, after doing all the damage, if they do the right thing now, that some medium, some person is going to be able to say to your child, it could be like a law enforcement, it could be the cop that refused to step in and see your child's welfare, making amendment, making atonement for what he did by not stepping in and checking on whether your child's being abused when the other parent wants and asks for a child welfare. You could ask for a child welfare check in the state where your daughter is.
Mhm. Well, a lot of people were asking me if it was the child human trafficking, if it was sexual child human trafficking that's happened, because um, I found photos of my daughter in kind of like skimpy outfits in what looks like pageant performances, and either beauty pageants or dance performances that they put my daughter on
You also found
stage.
pictures of her holding a gun.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. And so that's partly why I wrote a book about all of this, is because I feel like it needs to be investigated, all of it.
So what's the chances, Marianne? You hear of any investigations, like real and sincere and in good faith investigations going on?
I don't have anything good to report.
I spoke to the head of the Independence Institute here. That's a center right organization. They have former senators in there. They have constitutional scholars in there. And I asked him flat out, I'm going to save his name if you want to look it up. You can look it up yourself. But I asked him, is anybody helping? And you know what his answer was?
Mm.
No. We don't know. There's no mechanism for fixing this.
Mhm.
What about law students, though? Don't they investigate cases similar to
Law
this?
students,
Yeah.
they have about as much credibility as Marianne and I do. People know that we're telling the truth,
Mhm.
but we're not getting anywhere. Law students they're not like the magic answer under any scenario.
Yeah,
There
because
are lawyers trying to fight it and they get disbarred.
right.
They get shunned.
Or they're trying to get into a major law firm, so that's the last thing on their mind is.
Well, part of what I also put in my book is I feel like it's the FBI's responsibility to be investigating this, as well as the DHS Inspector General's
I hate to
responsibility
disavow
to
you of the
investigate
FBI,
this.
but the FBI has been under investigation of itself for in the year 2012, 3,600 FBI agents were sanctioned for sending child porn to non-agents. They were forwarding child porn to predators.
Okay, well, I still think it should be their it should still be their responsibility to investigate
Well,
things. That's
so I wonder if I have a picture of it. So, Lakewood, Colorado has a sign, and I'm gonna probably look around for it. Um, and it's a sign, it's a inverted blue triangle with a tree in the inside of it. I'm gonna find it, Marianne. Well, you brought up the FBI. And so this is a WikiLeaks FBI pedophile symbol. These are symbols. If you can read it, it says symbols and logos used by pedophiles to identify sexual preferences. Preferences. And
Mm.
this is the symbol right here. Okay. Let me see if I can blow it up. See that symbol right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This has been around since I moved here that I can recall. This is the symbol on every street sign in Lakewood, Colorado. You see it?
why
Oh.
why is it on every street sign?
Because the Center for Missing and Adopted Children, or Missing and Exploited Children, is here, and the FBI, the head of the FBI, like the FBI Federal Center, is here. They know about the child trafficking. Are they putting children into child trafficking? That's my question. How big is this?
Mm.
How bad is it? How big is it? This is the on the screen right now. So I'm going to stop sharing. So, this has been on Twitter. I'm the first person that recognized it because I've been talking about it since 2015. When Lisa Mitchell lived with me, she was one of the best researchers ever. Um, and she showed me that, and I'm like, what do you mean? It's right here. She said, well, so is the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I'm like, what? We are the like pedophile capital of the world? Lakewood, Colorado is the pedophile capital of the world? That's what it looks like to me. And so yeah. Okay. Anyway, Lindsay, I hate monopolizing your podcast. Is there something more that you want to tell us about?
Just what I've already described is pretty much the first book for The Missing.
Mhm.
And then Imperium Conflictus talks about how I believe that there is state government corruption in Colorado related to my disability and my spousal support case for the past 10 to 14 years.
Tell us about
But
that. Tell us about
but
that in
it
detail.
Yeah.
Okay, but it also is also talking about my daughter's kidnapping as well in the second book, but it leans more towards government corruption with my disability case and spousal support case. So, with my spousal support case, I probably list 8 or 10 different reasons why I should have been on spousal support in Colorado, because I found documentation given from a judge at the court saying that, oh, you can't be on spousal support unless you're married for 3+ years. And then I found documentation given to me from a judge with, I think, a signature from a judge saying she has been married for 3 years. And then I attached that to my second book. And then I also put on around the time that I asked for spousal support in Colorado, I was living in my own apartment and I was at risk being homeless because I think I was halfway on unemployment at that time, like paying for my rent at whatever apartment that I was at. And I had my custody of my daughter at the time when I first asked for spousal support. So I felt like that those were all good like standing reasons why I should have been given spousal support at the time, and the judges just kept saying no. And ever since requesting it, I want to say it was 2015. I think it was January 2015 when I first asked for spousal support. All the way up until I think 2023, I just kept on trying to appeal things to get on spousal support and denied. I kept every single date that I tried to appeal things in Colorado and deny, regardless of what documentation and proof I showed everybody. Like on every single one of my appeals, I feel like I gave the judges like 10 things of documentation and proof showing how I should be on spousal support, and I just kept getting denied. And so I feel like all of the denials, I had 8 topics other than my spousal support. Like I had disability, spousal support, a protection order, um, reasons to switch rooms at the facility I live at. Um, Gosh, what is it called? When you're living, like when you live in an apartment and you have mold and asbestos, you could file a lawsuit with apartment manager. I forget what that thing's called, but I filed a thing for that.
Mhm.
And it's like almost every single appeal that I've done in Colorado, everybody just denies me for everything, regardless of what proof that I've given them. And I don't get that. And I feel like I give them logical explanations, answers for things. I feel like I give them just cause for everything, and I still get denied. And I feel like, keeping track of all of the dates that I've appealed everything, that I put everything in both of my books,
I am
I
so
feel,
proud of you. I am so proud of you. My heart is just breaking for what they've done to you. I believe it's because you were in the foster care
Mhm.
system. You lost your child and they don't want to spend money. They want to only make money off of foster kids. And this is why I call it foster class warfare, because it's cradle to grave. What the plan is to take them from birth, l- put them in foster home after foster home, make them run away, give them a criminal record. You haven't done any of that. Um, but then lock them up and keep getting funding for them in jail. And I'm appealing to the foster children of America to come forward to stand up for against the no contact, to wake up and say, this is time that we acknowledge, or we get acknowledgement for what has happened to us, how long it's been going on intergenerationally, how we have been denied the American dream, that Donald Trump's executive order to make foster children wealthy is not the way to go about it. Other than, I mean, maybe there's restitution for foster children for all of the harms, damages, and vulnerabilities they've placed them into, and to give them a chance to catch up with the rest of the Americans who weren't, didn't have their families stolen from them. Instead of giving parents support for drugs and getting them help, that which they used to do, I think since 1998, it's gone the other way and weaponized drugs against parents. We don't want children around parents who are not fit. We don't. And that's part of what my nonprofit has to decide when we take on a new case, my nonprofit consideration. We have to decide, is this parent a safe parent? We have to know that.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people think they have a right. They've been so deprived. They have a right to use drugs. Well, you're working against yourself if you're using drugs. But what what the point is that you've been profiled.
Mhm.
You've been profiled from before you were born. Your baby was probably profiled from before it was born, Lindsay.
Mhm.
And you are doing an amazing, amazing thing, standing up, getting published, coming on this podcast. We pray for you. We pray for your safety. Do you have any reason to think that Candace White knows what you're doing?
She might. But I'm glad that I'm writing both of these books just because I feel like that there should be an investigation just due to the injustices. Because if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people. And like even the protection orders, I think my protection order was like 20 pages long of a woman that's threatened me for over 3 years. And I turned that into four different courts, and four different courts denied me. And
Do
it's
we
like,
know this woman?
it's a
You
woman
don't
that
have to
is
name her right now. I would
okay.
caution you against naming her.
She was threatening my life for over 3 years, and I'm just going to say it like that. But 20 pages long, and calling me names and threatening my life, and four different courts out here in Colorado chooses to deny a protection order that's like 20 pages long, filled with documentation. I still have copies of each protection order.
Is she stopped?
And, huh?
Has she stopped?
Yeah, well, she's stalked me. She has stalked me.
Has she
STOC.
STOP stopped? Has she stopped it?
Yes. But there's still no protection. But she can come back at any time because there's no protection order on her. And it baffles me because it's like, what court or justice system would do that to
They've
someone?
abandoned you. They abandoned you from birth. That's the way I look at it. They've abandoned the entire foster care kids, all of them, all the way up. And now we get a little bit of help. Oh, a foster kid can go to college. Right. Like they've been sitting in isolation. Douglas County was locking up. Here's what they're doing in Douglas County. They adopt kids to the churches, and the people at the churches, they get the audience from the church. They think they're doing good for the children, so they bring them into their homes and they adopt them, and then they send them to Douglas County Public Schools where they're profiled and they're given a substandard education, and they are kicked out of the classroom all the time. I can talk about Douglas County. I have intimate detail with that. I work with children from that county, and I know that the Department of Justice has been investigating them. And so I also want to go back to Scott Bottoms. He is the only legislator I've ever seen actively speak out against the SORNA Sex Offender Registry Act. He has the memorandum of procedures in his hand because he started a task force. And you know what? There's people out there saying, oh, he can never win. Oh, he can never win. He's too extreme. He is a Christian pastor. He's too extreme. He can never win. And they're trying to put another person through who was appointed to go to Congress. His name is Greg Lopez. They're trying to rally behind him. I think, I think there's a plan to put Greg Lopez in to keep Scott Bottoms out. That's what I think. And it's really early in the cycle. The election is in November of this year, and because the governor election in Colorado, and they're trying to write out Chris Scott Bottoms. Scott Bottoms, like Richard Frost, are the good guys in these cases. And Lindsey Shaffer is one of the good guys in these cases.
Mhm.
You've just joined ranks with really important people, Lindsey, and I fear for you.
Good.
And I wish that we could find, uh, well, maybe we should send this to the district attorney of the state of Colorado, Phil Weiser. Maybe we should just send this to him. What do you think, Marianne?
Sure.
I think so. I think that we need to start sending these video casts all around. And as long as we don't name names of people who are not public, like Candace White, you can name her all you want. You have proof, tons of proof, whether there's been an investigation or not. You have the right to name the accuser who accused you of being unfit without any evidence and then took your kid and was making you go get all of these 15 agencies you went to. They're all getting federal dollars
Hmm.
for rehabilitating you. or for um, whatever it was billed under. They make a crisis out of something, and instead of giving you that money so that you could keep a home for your kid, it's a huge racket. It's a huge empire. I call it the foster care empire.
And they
Well,
deflect.
after I find
They
out that the
deflect.
CPS case ends, then I find out Candace White, the CPS case manager, had a criminal background. And the people that she adopted my daughter out to, well, I don't think she's adopted, but the people that have my daughter also have a criminal background.
Why do you
I
not
found
think
that out
she's adopted?
because of the adoption fraud and kidnapping and child
Well, do
human
you have any
trafficking.
proof that was adopted?
No, because I don't have any adoption papers.
Get a load of that one, Marianne. I know how to pick them. I know how to pick the parents that got the goods because the parents who keep track of the records, those are the ones that have a chance. If you're going through there and you're letting them do all this to you and you know it's wrong, but you don't document it. And the other thing I'm telling parents right now, you make them do everything 5 times. You make them duplicate, triplicate, quadruplicate, and quintuplicate every single thing they're doing because when they run out of money, they want your case to go away. So if you make them do everything 5 times, right? There's some really good websites out there telling you how to fight back against CPS. There's way more resources than there were 11 years ago, Lindsay. And even if I had been part of your life 11 years ago, we don't necessarily win, but I think if we can get the documentation, make the facts come to the appeal court, then we may be winning case by case and we may be setting some precedent. And that's what the goal is like scare them, wake them up, and then expose the magnitude of the foster care empire. All the funding, the federal dollars for the wrong things.
Mhm.
To keep the sex offenders on the streets? Really? So,
Yeah.
what do you have for other thoughts, Lindsay? I mean, everything that you've been saying is shocking. That
In my second book, Imperium Conflictus, it mainly talks about my spousal
what
support
does
and
that
my
mean?
disability
What does
side.
that mean? Tell us what that means before you go on.
Imperium Conflictus, it means government conflict in Latin, and it was just a clever name for a book.
Good job.
So that's why I put it as my second book. But I'm learning more and more, and because I like to do an investigation after high school, I did some investigation work, and I've always been fond of the investigation side of things. But I found out related to my disability case from 2014 to 2023, I think it is. Nobody in my past disability case has given me any type of information of if I attended any court hearings or court appeals or anything related to my disability case from when I first applied back in 2014.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh, you know what that means, Marianne?
from 2014 to 2023, I believe that there is case file information missing because my second attorney told me that the first time that I applied for disability was in 2014, and he gave me the date. But then my first disability attorney and the judges that were involved with my disability case all came back and kept asking me, what are the dates that you applied for disability? And I told them I thought it was 2016. And they would also tell me 2016. And then my second disability attorney said 2014. So I'm thinking that no, because I asked him, what are the other court dates that we went to court that we did court hearings for? Between 2014 to 2023, nobody ever gives me a straightforward answer for anything.
Well, So there's a whole lot of information about the ADA accommodations and fair treatment of people with disabilities. And I think we're gonna have to see about getting you an ADA case going.
Mhm.
And then I found out, I put this in my second book, I found out that they mixed other people's case files in with mine in a CD that my attorney gave me. Like I was looking through all my case files for my disability case, and there was like four other people's case files mixed in with mine. I'm
I'm not
just like,
sure of
what the
the
heck?
significance of that, but I did want to mention that Imperium is the same as Empire. Remember the foster care Empire? It's the same root word,
Mhm.
Imperium, Empire. Um, but I don't know if that could just have been, that happens with people's medical records all the time, Lindsay, that they get crossed over and
But
sloppy management, but I'm
Mm.
not sure it's a crime.
I also put in my second book that, okay, so I feel like the documentation was wrongfully deleted in my disability case, and I put that in my second book. And then I also put proof that documentation, I believe, was wrongfully deleted with my spousal support case, because I actually hired a private investigator to help me with my, somehow I found the money to get a private
You are full
investigator
of
involved.
surprises, girl.
Mhm.
Um, And the private investigator was able to gather up information for me and say that documents were deleted with my spousal support case that wasn't supposed to get deleted. And then I found out the same thing with custody for my daughter and trying to get files and records for my past child protective service case for 3 years. I only got 18 pages back instead of what, 200 or 300 pages that I thought that I was supposed to get back for records for a 3 year CPS case. So I put that one, I think, in my first book, but it's custody for my daughter, my CPS case, my disability case, my spousal support case, my A&D cash aid to the needy and disabled, um, and I think, oh, my past work history in Colorado. That was another thing, and that's related to my disability case. Again, this is what I put in my second book. I got notification back from Social Security, not Social Security, I don't know, SS, I can't remember. Um, I asked, I think it was the Social Security Administration for some sort of form 10994645, something in my past work history, requesting this back December 12th, 2025. I just got a letter in January 14th, 2026, saying that they could not give me back my past work history. And I put this in my second book because everything was blacked out and whited out and tampered with. And I'm just like, okay, well, then how can everybody in my disability case be asking me and saying I don't deserve to be on disability because I can work with my work records for this work experience, that work experience, when all of my past work history has been deleted? And I just found that out recently and put that in my second book.
Mhm.
Wow.
So I don't get it.
I think you're doing really
I
good
pretty
work,
much did
girl.
my own investigation case for everything.
Yeah.
So and so
But
that and so there brings us right back to who's going to do something about it.
I did a lot though. At
You
least I
did.
did.
You did a lot.
I know, but who's going to write it so that it's we got to find a lawyer that understands it, that wants to actually work for good. Um, but I remember when I first was talking to you, I was telling you I don't know what I can do to help you, but I didn't know all this stuff and all of the records that you have. Um, and I found out even more, Marianne. So see, thank you for sending Lindsay my way. Thank you for being available to be that conduit, which you are. And
Thank you.
Lindsay, I can't tell you how proud I am. Like I really can't tell you. Um, I don't have the words.
Hmm.
Well,
But
thank you both for being in my life and being there for support and helping me in any way you possibly can. Being able to talk to both of you, I really, really appreciate all of your help.
and I think that it is not a bad idea to send this on to the state attorney general. That's that would be, and you know what? Um, I met Scott Gessler. He was the Secretary of State for Colorado. Maybe, I told him about this. I tell everybody about the Memorandum of Procedures. And Scott Bottoms is the only one that has ever tried to help with
Mm.
even recognizing it. I even had an activist that we both know, Marianne, say, "Oh, it's not going to work for this cycle." Like, in other words, give up for this year at the legislature. And I'm not going to tell you his name because I care about him, but I'm not going to broadcast it. But, when people are like, that's actually a male protecting the sexual abuse part, um, the essay, sorry, the essay part in the memorandum of procedures. Like, why would you put that out there to half of the population that you're trying to help?
Mm.
Like the women. Why would you put out, like, you don't think that the memorandum of procedures stands a chance at any, I'm looking for a law that will undo that policy, which is not even in a law, which is returning children to parents with history of SA or a parent who's ever been in the foster care system. So now are we going to have to say FC for foster care? You know what that sounds like, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
FCU? We
Mm.
we can't talk about the reality. That's an infringement of speech. So
Yeah,
you you call a spade, you call a man, and you call a female a female. Like, yeah.
I agree. I agree. I'm glad I had
So
you both on. Um,
thank you.
Debbie, how can you be reached if anyone has any questions or if I don't send them to you sooner?
Um, you have my email. It's Carol, Carroll, Debbie, Debbie 73 at yahoo.com.
And your consideration nonprofit.org.
Yep. It's like there's two ends at consideration non, get it, put them both in there. And we're
Got it.
working on that website. I've been trying to improve it. I haven't had much time or manpower, but I'm working on that too. I have maybe have another meeting right after this one.
Oh, wow. And Lindsay, how do you want to be reached?
Through my email, would be motivated Irish Angel 42 at yahoo.com.
Okay, and be sure to grab her books, The Missing and Imperium Conflictus. And you can find that on Amazon, Google Play, and PayHip. So I totally thank you both for coming on. Don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe and share Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Debbie Carroll and Lindsey Shaffer. Thank you so much for teaching us about all of this.
Thank you all for
You.
having me.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.